is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom, to another edition of 21 Questions, the podcast where you guys ask us questions of any kind. We come in here, we answer them today. I'm happy. I for the first time, I think, since KCS started, I get to sit down here with Mike DeVito himself, answer some of your guys' questions. We appreciate you guys for putting them out there. I'm excited to do this. Mike, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me on. Listen, I'm a little bit self-conscious right now. You're over there, guns out, looking good, and I got these man boobs. Come on, brother. Help me out. No, you're supposed to help each other out on it.
And see, here's the thing. I was nervous because I always do the 21 Question Show without sleeves. It's just a bit that I started when we started the company. It's just what I do. And I thought when I did it, you might come in sleeveless. And I'd be like, oh no, now like I'm the little guy now. It's like I was even questioning if I should do it. So okay, we're both self-conscious.
I wouldn't do that to our subscribers, bro.
Okay, so we're going to get into this bad boy. If you guys don't know, 21 Questions, we field all these questions from the KCSN Discord. So anybody that has subscribed to the KCSN Substack, that's kcsn.substack.com, you get an invite to the Discord. That's where we take all these questions. If you're not if you're subscribed but you don't understand Discord, you can try to DM, somebody at KCS and we can try to get your questions answered. But the majority of them do come from the Discord. It's the easiest way for us. So if you want to participate, please come in there, drop some questions, and we are going to start this thing off. I think it's a perfect question to start. To you, Mike, how has Tershawn Wharton looked so far this year? I know he's kind of coming back from the lower body injury last year, so there's probably some rust to shake off, but how's he been looking to you so far to start the season?
This last game, I thought he really came into his own. It's really miraculous that he was able to get back as fast as he did, and it's a testimony to his work ethic, and obviously we've talked at length about Rick Buckhalter and the training staff over there at KC. I mean, they're just incredible. That was a hard injury, and to come back as fast as he did, be ready for the season. Like you said, there's always rust. I remember coming back from my Achilles injury. It took me a little bit. In fact, I lost my starting job because it took me so long to get back to where I needed to be. So it's just hard. It's hard, and especially given how limited these guys have on the field with OTAs and training camp, the way time has been cut back. It's hard to get back and be ready to go. And so I think he's done a really good job coming back off the injury. And I think we've seen progressions each week. In this last week, I think he really looked good. So I'm excited for Wharton. I think he's going to have another great year. And I think he's an asset to that Chiefs defense.
No, absolutely. I'm with you. I thought he played his best game this past week versus the Chargers. It looks like he's kind of getting back some of that explosion. That's kind of how he won. A little bit of a smaller D tackle, right? So like he's not going to be necessarily taking on double teams all the time. Like he wins with his quickness, especially his lateral agility. It looks like it's coming back. So like as long as that keeps progressing, I think we're looking pretty good to add him back, a healthy Wharton back to this DT rotation. It's maybe been a little thin. And on that note, that question was from Grayson Jasper, so he also had a follow-up. And I think Steve Gray had a similar-minded question here. So we're going to kind of talk about the process. Keandre Coburn was waived as the Chiefs brought in or traded for Mecole Hardman. He was one of the moves that was made. I think the Chiefs' plan was to get him to the practice squad because late round pick, not a lot of tape available. I think they wanted to get him to the practice squad. That unfortunately didn't happen. What do you think are some things that go into that decision to kind of to waive Coburn, trying to get him to the practice squad versus maybe trying to find somebody else to let go?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same reason that I had to leave the league when I did. I mean, it's just, Coburn is a much better player than I ever was, but he fits that. He's that old school mold, right? I mean, he's a bigger run stop. He's explosive, and there's just not, especially when you're playing the Chiefs, right? Because if you're thinking of opposing offenses coming in to play Kansas City, they're not thinking, hey, we're going to run the ball at a 21 personnel 50 times. You know what I mean? They're thinking, hey, we got to keep up. So we're going to be an 11 and we're tossing it. And that's what we see, that's what we see every week. And so when you're looking at a roster and you're evaluating a roster, you're thinking, okay, Coburn, great player, fits this run stop and mode, obviously has the ability to affect the pass, but he's more of a, two down guy. And there isn't a premium for that anymore. It's really a luxury. And so when you have a roster situation going on, like you just said, the guys that are luxuries are going to go first. And so, and I really like Coburn. I think when I look at his film in Texas and everything that I saw from him, I like him as a player. He reminds me again a lot of myself when I was playing, more explosive, better version, but like that same mold. And so I was sad when he especially signed with Denver. I mean, that's killer. But I think, put myself in the mindset of Veach and Andy Reid. I'm thinking that's probably the reasoning that they let, KC go and keep these other guys is because, again, he's just a little bit more limited in what he can contribute to the defense.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's a great point. While we're still talking about defensive tackles, Coburn is definitely a little bit more in the mold of probably a run stuffer. I mean, that explosion can play its dividends on passing downs, a little bit more of a run stuffer. So they're looking at their roster like, okay, Matt Dickerson is playing a couple snaps every game. He's a little bit more of a pass rusher than Coburn is at this point in time in their career. He makes more sense for our team right this second, even if the long-term outlook might not be as bright. And we traded for Neil Farrell, who they're probably sitting there looking and saying, hey, if Derek Nnadi gets hurt, Farrell's more ready to step in right now than Coburn might be. So he's our backup nose tackle, so to speak. I think that's where they're coming from, but I'm with you. It hurt. Like, shout out Matt Dickerson. He's playing good snaps for the Chiefs, but like I really wanted to keep Coburn around, and like I was a little disappointed in the decision, especially getting him to Denver there.
Yeah, and he's a likable guy too. But no, that's a great point. That's a great point to think about the way this sort of depth chart is stacking up too. You're right. He's further down the line, and so that's another reason you let one of those guys go. So good point, man.
Yeah. All right. So next up, this is from ABKC. Hasn't Mahomes had a different QB coach every single year, and how do we think that affects his decision making from year to year? So I'll ask you first about this. Like, what is the positional coaches, like your interaction with the positional coach as that changes over year to year? How does that kind of go for players on the team first, and then we'll kind of transition to maybe quarterback specifically?
Yeah, so it's a lot of 99% of the time it's really important, especially for players like me. I mean, I really played up or down to the level of my coaching, and so it was really important for me to have a good position coach, and I was very lucky to have a lot of very good position coaches. But there are exceptions, and I think Kansas City with Pat Mahomes is one of those exceptions. First off, you got Andy Reid, who was involved with that position, just as much, or if not more, than your normal coaches. And so, with all that, with the position coaches being transient, it's still the case that you have Andy Reid there. And then there are those rare players that, like Mahomes, like Brady and Manning before, where you basically. I don't even know if Mahomes needs an OC at this point, given how much he knows, how talented he is. He probably could be like Manning and go out there and just call the plays and do it all himself. So, again, would you like it to be stable? Sure. If there's going to be a place where it is moving around and coaches are coming and going, that's the place for it to be because, Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to be Mahomes and Andy Reid, regardless of who else is in there in that room.
Yeah, and Matt Nagy was back as a QB coach last year, now to OC. That's another familiar face that's in there. Everybody that's getting progressed through this coaching staff right now too has kind of been there. It's been passing game coordinators, assistant coaches, quality control guys. They're all helping. Mahomes has had interactions with them, sat in the meeting rooms with them. I don't think sometimes, like we've heard about Joe Blameyer working on the passing on third down situations, or Connor Embry being in charge of this part of like the offensive game plan week after week. I think there is familiarity. So I think Mike's right there. Like Mahomes probably doesn't need a direct, OC QB coach in terms of structuring out the game, calling him plays necessarily. I don't know if it impacts his decision-making. Like, what is he gaining from a QB coach in terms of like his mechanics necessarily, or how he's playing? I think he's getting most of that sorted out. They're kind of helping with tendencies, foreseeing, the overall structure of the offense as a big piece, not specifically to Mahomes at this point of his career. Early on, absolutely. But at this point, I feel like it's probably a little bit bigger picture than specifically on him.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so next we got Julian K. Did Mecole Hardman fix the offense? I mean, hey, early returns might be yes, right? Just the presence of him might be yes. I know you're focusing mostly on the defense when you're watching the games, but like, what did you think of kind of Mecole Hardman's like impact just in that first game back? On the special teams, obviously great, but the offensive side of the ball.
I really liked because I didn't play with Hardman when I was there. Obviously, he was after me, but I liked what Kelsey said, and it gave you a little bit of insight into Hardman's place in that locker room. He said he's just a guy that brings a lot of energy, right? He's a guy brings a lot of optimism, a lot of. I can't remember Kelsey's exact quote, but basically. Like he had the guys fired up, just having him back in the building. And so that alone is very special. Obviously, he has the talent to produce on the field as well. He knows Mahomes. They know each other. We saw that on Sunday. I also laugh a little bit with the fix the offense. It's like, even that we've been so spoiled with how great Kansas City's been. Like, I would have died to have an offense that as good as the Chiefs have been the first 7 games when it's some of the years I was playing, So, but he is certainly a help, and he made a big difference. We saw that. Just another target, frees up a lot of the other guys. And so, no, I think he does. Again, I think fix the offense might be a little bit dramatic, but I do think he helps. And we saw that Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm with you. The offense wasn't really needing fixing. I think it was just a matter of finding consistency. Like, they were still very good, and they weren't helping the defense as much as they wanted to, right? But they were still a very good offense. They weren't by any stretch a poor offense, and it just took, whether it was Hardman or not, this offense was going to have a game like this that happened. It just happened to coincide with Hardman coming back, who had a good game. Right, don't get me wrong. I think he was second on the team in third down targets for a guy that just showed up this week and played 11 snaps or had 11 pass routes. That's kind of impressive. It's like they were clearly trying to get him involved. He clearly helped. I'm interested going forward. I think his speed was something this offense was missing. They're not a slow team, but they don't have the same level of speed that they have had from 2018 until, essentially last year, once they lost Tyreek Hill and then Mecole Hardman got hurt. Adding him back gives a real speed element that I think this offense is missing. So we saw the one attempted deep shot, fell a little short because Mahomes got hit as he threw it. I think there was another one that was a deep over that pressure got to Mahomes just before he was probably going to find Hardman what it should have been a 30, 40-yard type of gain. The deep shots are coming, I think, with him back. So that speed is big. We had another new guy come play for the Chiefs for the first time this season, but we'll get to that right after this quick break.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right, and we're back with 21 questions. Matt Lane, Mike DeVito here, and now we're going to the defensive side of the ball for the other new addition. Zach Zeminarax asked, could you ask for more of the two players, Mecole Hardman and Charles Omenihu, that made their Chiefs 2023 debut last week? We just talked about Hardman, so let's let you talk about Charles Omenihu and kind of just, how well you thought he played in this game going against the Chargers.
Yeah, I think he's a great addition. I mean, he fits the mold right now for what you're looking for in an ideal defensive lineman, right? I think he's 6'5", 208 pounds, fast, explosive, long, and you saw that out there on Sunday. And it is a testament to him, because you can say with Hardman, right, he's already familiar with everything going on over there. That's not the case with Omenihu. And so to see him come in, take off, do a great job. And, there's also a level, there's a level of, hey, the expectations are low here, given you're just getting here, your first week back, you know what I mean? All this stuff. And, so you could see he played with a little bit of, he played with passion, he played loose. So those are all great things to see with him coming back. And I think he's a huge addition. But to the question to both of those guys, that really is a testament to, two things. One, the focus on detail in Kansas City's locker room and in those position meetings, coordinator meetings, because with Hardman, that speaks to all the time he's been there before. Even with his time in New York, he didn't lose that. He was ready to, he knew exactly what he was coming into. And that's because the details are drilled into you there in Kansas City. The little things are important, and that doesn't leave you when you leave. And so it was easy for him to pick right back up and go in. And same thing on the other side of the ball. And so, but it was impressive to see those guys come out and play and be productive on such short notice. So that was good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been excited for Charles Omenihu's kind of introduction to this team this year, because I was watching back and just his progression from with the Texans to the 49ers last year. And I mean, the 49ers are great right now at kind of developing these very traitsy edge rushers that can kick inside, outside, and having them have a great year and then go off to another team and continue to ascend. And so Omenihu was great last year for them. He comes to Kansas City, thought he looked good in the preseason. So I was really excited. And then I think he didn't fall short at all. I mean, he had the big batted pass that led to the interception, down by the Chiefs goal line. Great play there. He was the guy that came up. It was a coverage sack, don't get me wrong, but the effort was there. He's the one that sacked Justin Herbert when the Chiefs were kind of at the end of half to allow the Chiefs to double up before and after halftime there, or try to double up after halftime. He made big plays and big moments. He did it from the outside in the inside. And the way Chris Jones is playing, especially when they kick him out to D end right now, I think having another pass rusher that can win one-on-one on the inside like Omenihu can, I think that's going to play huge dividend down the line, because like his quickness on the interior combined with Jones' abilities at the end right now, like that's a nightmare for any guard tackle combo in the NFL.
That's a great point. And that's the key with somebody, when you have somebody like Chris out there, is if you can have a guy that can also, warrant attention, where you can't just say, listen, put everybody on Chris and one up everybody else. When you have one other guy like a Frank Clark out there where you have to worry about him too, now that becomes really a problem, because they can't double and triple team Chris every time. And, now you see either that other guy's going to get free or Chris is going to get free. And when you can get bit pressure with those front four, don't have to worry about blitzing and all that stuff, it just makes things so much easier. So, yeah, that's a good point, man. I didn't think of it like that. But that's another, important reason why he adds so much value to that Chiefs defense.
Okay, so we got 2 big returns, and now we have to talk about it. Nick Bolton dislocates his wrist in this game. Highly unfortunate. He came back. He was having a good game. I don't know for sure. It looked to me like he got his hand stuck in the shoulder pads, like the chest plate of Allen, and then fell on it. And like you could tell he was in pain. He got to the sideline and just couldn't get all the way off the field. Terrible, terrible news. We'll see, hopefully he comes back this year. So there is going to be a roster spot open for the Chiefs. Nick Bolton is most likely going to go to the IR. There will be a roster spot open. They currently were carrying, I believe, 5 linebackers. They had Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill, Willie Gay, Leo Chenal. They're carrying 6 because they also had Jack Cochran and Cam Jones was active. So they now have 5 linebackers still on the roster. Do you think the Chiefs will go ahead and bring up, another linebacker to keep that 6? Is there another position that you think they might bring up to kind of fulfill out this roster here? Or how do you think they might approach that?
It's a good point. It's a good question. Veach and Andy Reid are really, unique or novel when it comes to how they build rosters. They could always have some trick up their sleeve, but at least from my past experience, generally, even regardless of there was a reason there were that many guys in the linebacker room, and losing one of those guys, you're usually always going to replace it with another guy at that position. So if I were to hedge my bets, I would say they'd probably bring in, given conventional wisdom, they'll probably bring another linebacker in, a guy maybe that can contribute on special teams, a guy that can, be there to fill in, if need be on defense. But at the same time, again, given Veach and Andy Reid and how they like to spice things up, it could be something different. So we never know. But yeah, if I had to bet, I would say they're going to get another linebacker.
Yeah, I would lean that way too. I don't think they brought in another linebacker when he was missing time earlier this year. So I don't know if that will be their move. But like Isaiah Moore sitting on the practice squad, he's another undrafted rookie that I know that they liked coming in. I honestly think his skill set's kind of similar to Bolton, not near as good, but like a box kind of linebacker. Hopefully he has some special teams ability. Right now, Cam Jones, Jack Cochran are playing a ton of special team snaps, right? Like they're 2 core special teamers for this team. If one of them gets a few more straight defensive reps, maybe you want to pare back a little bit on what they're doing on teams just so you don't have another injury. So you might see some protection there. Or hey, my personal fan fiction favorite, this is, maybe this is the roster spot where Frank Clark gets to come back. We'll just put the fan fiction out there.
That's good, Matt. That would be nice. He's just a chief, man. Like I don't know what he has left on the tank on the field. I didn't see much of Denver, but you talk about a locker room presence and all the intangible things he can bring, and just the type of personality he is. Yeah, I mean, he's Chiefs. I'd love to see him, but that's a good point. I'd love to see him back.
Yeah, so we're talking like maybe bringing up the same position for Nick Bolton. But what about just bringing like the same kind of like leader? Like Frank Clark has played linebacker, but same type of like leader kind of guy. I don't know. That's just I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm crossing my fingers. We know he was in Kansas City.
Matt, that's such a unique perspective. You're exactly right. I didn't think about that with Bolton, but you do. You don't just lose a linebacker there. You lose a primary leader. So to bring somebody back like Frank would make a lot of sense. I'd rather fill the leadership position and be one short at linebacker than have the extra linebacker, but lose, not have that extra leader out there. That is an excellent point. Now I could see that. I can see them definitely bringing back Clark, for that reason alone. That's good, man.
Perfectly do it before Denver too. That would be the best. That was a good question, Will Yoder. We appreciate that. We got the big institution's biggest fan. The big institution is what some fans like to call Craig Stout. So, if you ever want to call him the big institution, feel free. How should I feel about Clyde Edwards-Helaire's production this year? What's wrong with the run game? So let's split up. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I know the production this year hasn't been great. I know a lot of fans saw the drop screen pass. They see a 2-yard run, and they're wondering, why isn't it Isaiah Pacheco? Why is he playing at all? So on and so forth. Right. I'll defend Clyde a little bit here because I think if you remove the first-round tag, I think a lot of the disdain for him goes away. I think if you consider that he had a significant hip injury as a rookie that clearly has taken away some of his change of direction ability. He hasn't moved the same since that hip injury, and I don't know if he ever will. And that's, we can't pretend it's not there, but it is there. But when you watch him run, he gets what is blocked for him. I know he's not the most elusive back. He is getting what's blocked for him. The O-line gives him 5 yards, he's getting 5 yards. They give him 0, he's getting 0. I know that's frustrating, but I don't think he's been near as bad as I think fans ought to say. He's just not able to turn a, mediocre play into a great play or a bad play into a good play. And that's okay for a backup running back, which is his role. I think that's completely acceptable. He knows the playbook, acceptable in pass pro, acceptable as a wide receiver, fine as a runner. And that's where I am with it. Do you have any, takes on Clyde Edwards-Helaire from what you've seen so far, Mike?
Well, I think you make a good point. I've said this on the show before, but, when I was coming over to KC in 2013, Glenn Dorsey, big defensive tackle, had just left. Tyson Jackson was, the defensive end, across from me or opposite of me on the field. And I remember following those guys' careers a lot and watching the tape and loving the way they played. But because they were 3-4 defensive ends and didn't get a ton of sacks and were drafted in the first round, everybody hated on them. Now, a guy like me who comes in as an undrafted free agent and does the same things that those guys do, everybody, I was very lucky to have a lot of people who had my back say, yeah, I would love to do this, that, and the other. But they were better than I was. But it's just amazing when you take into account where they got drafted. Now and I understand it, but now the evaluation changes. And so I think you're right. I think Helaire, does his role. He's a good back. He's a guy you want on the roster. He's a good backup guy. And it's just that, the first round pick, which was not, or whenever he got picked, that's not anything that he can control. He is who he is. And you take it for what it is. And then when you talk about the run game, I think one thing, and this would be a good thing to ask Jeff Allen or Mitch Schwartz or whoever else we have on the offensive line guys. Again, I think this is a product of the way the league continues to change to be a more passing league. The run game is very much timing, technique, especially the way Kansas City does it. And there is you have to do it over and over again. When you're just sprinkling in a few runs, it's hard to get the momentum going. It's hard to get that, it's just hard to get the run, to say, okay, evaluate the run game. And we're only sprinkling it in every once in a while. And so I don't know if the run game has been bad. I just don't think it has been as much of a focus as maybe as it could be. But they throw the football a lot, and sometimes it's hard to get in the groove, especially up front of those offensive linemen with the techniques and all that stuff in the run game and the backs as well. When you only are running the ball, I don't know what they're running the ball a game, but I don't think it's been a ton.
It feels like it's probably the normal Andy Reid lower amount, and that's fine. The team's winning, it's okay.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
No, those are great points because I've had a couple conversations with some offensive linemen that have played for the Chiefs, and they kind of said the same thing about even training camp. Working with Andy, there's not a lot of time spent working on the run game, and that makes sense for an Andy Reid training camp given how he wants to run his offense. They're not going to spend, and then you compare that to teams like the Titans in their heyday, the Ravens. Any good running team, how much do you think they're working on the run game in training camp versus the Chiefs? There's probably a reason they pass off their combos. They work up the backer at a more consistent level because they do it a lot more often in practice than the Chiefs are. And that's just going to come to show eventually in the game. I did want to ask you though, for your perspective as a defensive lineman, right? You're going into a game. How different is it to prepare for a team where you're expecting the Chiefs run a lot of zone runs, right? They run a lot of zone stuff and we like it. Everybody likes it when they run gap because it seems to work. How difficult is it for you to go in expecting zone runs and then all of a sudden you're getting hit with, a gap heavy scheme coming at you as a defensive lineman? How difficult is that to adjust for? And can that kind of play a part in some of the Chiefs running success when they do switch up their tactics?
Well, I would have preferred if they went to a gap scheme run.
Okay.
Stuff. But you're right. You go in there and you're scouting a team like that and you're expecting hard zone, and then all of a sudden they're running power and ISO, especially with the guys they got on that offensive line. When you've been playing, okay, don't get reached, stay in my gap, make sure I get knocked back, and all you've been practicing that all week. Now all of a sudden you got Trey and everybody on a double team. That's a whole other deal. And so you're right, switching it up make a big difference. But yeah, no, personally as a defensive lineman, I would much rather play that cap speed stuff. Give me the double teams all day. I can't stand running after it, be on the backside of its own play, getting cut and face hitting the ground. That like.
Oh no. Yeah. No, that's fair. And yeah, I just wanted to ask, just like that perspective of just getting something a complete curveball. We talk about it with the Chiefs more often in coverage when they see man or zone, as like we talk about that all the time. And so the same thing applies to a run game. I just wanted to get your idea of like how you'd be preparing different. Next, we got one from Cheddar Bob. I think this is a good question. How much information do teams get when they sign a former player from another team? So we just talked about DeAndre Coburn. He now goes to the Broncos. What kind of information can they get from him? How much do they want to just spill everything? Like, how does that interaction work?
Yeah, they're going to spill everything. I mean, it'd be weird if, Coburn went in there and they said, tell us what's up. And he said, no. I wouldn't be surprised given how tight knit the Chiefs locker room is, but they're going to say everything. I think it matters a lot more when it's the opposite position. So if Denver would have signed an offensive player, and now as a defensive player, I can get, I can hear what their snap count is. I can learn what their calls are up front, what they like to do. The other way around on defense, there's not a ton that I think Coburn can tell them that they're going to say, oh yeah, we can pick up on that. Because they can see what kind of defenses KC likes to run. And, if they had gotten him midweek, obviously he can tell them what the game plan is. But there isn't as much communication with calls. There isn't as much stuff like that where it's going to give some huge advantage to the offense, I don't think. I think it's better, again, when it's the opposite. So if an offensive player had gone to Denver, now they can fill that defense in on everything that, all the checks and calls and all the stuff the offense is doing. I don't think it's going to factor in that much in this case. And it's good. A defensive lineman normally, isn't keyed in on what's going on in the secondary, what the linebackers doing, special calls on the end. Like even as somebody who was more of a heady player, I didn't know what the hell those guys were doing. It didn't affect me, you know what I mean? And so he's really, he's coming in with a limited amount of information, I think, that could really help Denver on Sunday.
No, that's it. And especially being like a younger guy, a rookie trying to find his way, like there's probably still a little bit of a lack of familiarity. I did want to ask you here too, like, do you have a specific instance where you remember playing against a former teammate that maybe moved on in the middle of the year that maybe made an impact? I mean, if not, it's okay. I just didn't know if you had like an experience that sticks out to you where you ended up playing a team that a former teammate went to and it like kind of played a role.
No, but I remember, and I can't remember who the player or the team was, so it's not very helpful, the story. But I remember an offensive player coming over from a team that we were playing. This was when I was in New York, and getting all their offensive line calls. And that making a big difference. I mean,
like Christmas.
That helped us. Yeah, that helped us a lot. No, I don't remember that. Us losing somebody mid-season and that hurting us. I don't remember that.
No, that's perfect. That's absolutely fine. It's good to hear because, like, I wouldn't have thought about it necessarily about like it being a little bit more, advantageous for some people, to have the offensive player coming over. But it makes perfect sense because there's a lot more, I think, like team-wide, I guess, communication probably going on between snap counts, protection calls, and adjustments that may not be going. So that's good. We're going to continue rolling, but first, a quick word from draft sponsor DraftKings here. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down just $5 on any NBA game. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub. And with DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at even bigger basketball wins. String together multiple bets from the same game or build your parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter. Basketball's more fun when you're in on the action. We all know that. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use the code KCSN. New customers get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball for terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. All right, Mike, we're back. I got the most important question, I think, of this entire thing right here from Positive Toasty. You wake up, it's 2 a.m. and you're hungry. What are you grabbing or making to eat?
Oh, man. Oh, you got to remember, I'm 300 pounds, so there's not too much thinking going on, especially at 2 a.m. I mean, it's whatever's in the front of the fridge. I'm a big, microwave burrito guy. It's 2 minutes, let that in. What else? What else do you got? If there's, any sort of cold pizza left over.
Oh, yeah. That's the move.
That's the move. You know what else I like, strangely? Ice cream with M&Ms and some chocolate syrup or something that takes a second, but still, gosh, yeah. What else? I mean, really anything. When you're as big as I am, it's just anything. You know what I mean? I'm an offensive lineman stuck in a D lineman's body. Or not really. I have an offensive line body too. So,
I mostly do intermittent fasting. So I have hard eating and not eating windows. So I try not to midnight snack too much. But if I do, I'll branch out. I'm not that strict with this. If I do get really hungry, say I didn't have time to eat or something, I just get too hungry. The cold pizza is definitely a move. That's a favorite. If it's there, I don't got to do anything. It's just ready to go. That's my thing. At 2 a.m., if I'm waking up, moving from the couch to the bedroom, I don't want to make something. It's just what I can grab. Cold pizza. If there's any kind of leftovers that work. If not, I'm going to the kids' snack. We have a tower of kids' snacks. I'm just pulling stuff out of there. It might be two things even, but we're going to the kids' snacks at that time of day. There's no worries.
That's right. Yeah, cylinder chips or something like Pringles or something.
Yeah, whatever it can be. All right, from Charles McDonald. Okay, this is a good one. I actually really like this question because I don't think anybody's talked enough about it yet so far. Charles McDonald asks, what do we both think about Derek Nnadi's season so far, and do we think he's earned another contract for the Chiefs?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd have to really look in it. So, Nnadi plays, he's what I would have been. He's the modern version of what I was back in the day, right? So he's more of your rotational 2-down guy, but obviously he can contribute in the pass, which I was very limited in. When you look at his stats, I mean, he's one of those players, again, given the role that he plays, it's hard to get a beat on if he's earned another contract just by looking at his statistics. So I think, what is he at? 15 tackles, something like that this year. I don't know if he has any sacks, but he's taken on double teams. His technique in the run game, all that stuff is really important. And those are the things that the Chiefs are going to be evaluating to see, is he worth the contract extension? And I think that, I think the guys like him, I think he's a locker room guy. All those things factor into it. So again, it's hard to tell, given his stat line, especially when you see how productive a lot of those guys are on the Chiefs defense, if he's earned that. I think would come down to, given his position, he's not the type of guy that you're just counting up stats to see if he's done it. He's really factoring in a lot on those, technically factoring in on those defense. And so it's going to be, I think with him, it's going to be an analysis of the tape. Is he bringing value? Is he taking on double teams, scoop blocks, things like that, and helping the guys around him, freeing them up to make plays? So I think it's to be determined. But I think when you factor in all the other stuff that he brings, especially the type of locker room guy that he is, I would say that things are more optimistic than pessimistic. Don't you think, Matt?
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. It locks up. The stats are never going to look good. I pulled it up here. He has on the season, I think, 8 tackles, 2 pressures. That's it. But of those 8 tackles, 7 are what Pro Football Focus considers a stop. So a tackle resulting in a non-positive play for the offense. That's pretty good. And to your point, he is the guy that's eating up the double teams. He's taking on the majority of the blocks. He's playing next to Chris Jones, Tershawn Wharton the majority of the time. And not that those guys don't make plays versus the run, but neither of those guys really want to be the dude getting in there and holding up the double team. They're trying to slip their blocks. They're trying to go make a play in the backfield. Right. That leaves Nnadi as the sole guy a lot of times, kind of hanging on to stuff. And I think he's been really good at it this year. I think it was as a rookie, I was really excited about what he had. And then I know there was some hip injuries at times. It looked like he had changed his stance at one point in his career and got more into the frog stance that you see a lot in college. And I didn't like his play as much out of that. And it seems like he's healthier again now, right? Like it seems like he just needs to be moving better. And it seems like every other game, his one tackle that he makes in that game, right? It seems to be one that saves a big run, though. Like we've seen the big clothesline plays where he's getting out of his gap and kind of making the play on a guy that looks like he has a lot of space to run. So I'm intrigued at the end of the year to go back and look, because I think this might be Derek Nnadi's best season with the Chiefs. And I think that's huge for him because I think we had kind of hit a plateau and we're kind of treading water for the past couple seasons. So to see him take a step forward again, I think it has been really nice.
Well, Matt, and to your point, too, another very good point. Just like we talked about the offense, especially offensive lines, not being able to get into sync because a lot of times the run game isn't the focal point as to get into sync as it relates to the run game. Same thing with defensive line. And, we're rushing the passer all the time. Everybody's throwing the ball on you. Then all of a sudden there's a change up and, you have to be in the right spot or it's going to be a big run. Those are key to be able to play those well. And it can be hard to do when you're constantly thinking about rush the passer, rush the passer, rush the passer. So to your point, you're exactly right. Nnadi's been able to make those plays in key situations, especially given what Pro Football Focus has said. I mean, that's huge. And those are the plays that opposing offenses are looking to get those big chunks because they're figuring, let's catch teams off guard. And so yeah, no, that's a good point. And he has shown up there. That's great.
No, yeah, and I'm glad for it. I think it's needed. This is gonna be a confusing question. I'm gonna try to explain it the best I can. You didn't get access to this one because I knew I had to explain it. So this is from Snaris. The cheeseburger scale is something that I created this summer when we had to fill a lot of podcast time, and we just ranked the Chiefs positional groups on a cheeseburger scale from best to worst. Instead of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, I ranked cheeseburger places in Kansas City. So it was Town Topic number 1 because that's Andy Reid's favorite. Maybe not mine. That was Andy Reid's. Westport Flea Market, Whataburger, McDonald's. Like that was the order. I said next year I'm going to change it away from cheeseburger because so many people got upset by my ranking system. I don't know why. So it's somebody asked if we were going to redo the cheeseburger scale with a pizza scale, what pizza places would you want to include? Now we're trying to keep these local to Kansas City. So I don't know if you had any favorite pizza places in Kansas City that you would maybe want to lobby out there. If not, it's okay. You can just tell us your favorite anywhere that you're at.
Yeah, that's it. So these scales are so interesting. Again, when you're a 300-pound lineman, I'm not judgy of pizza is pizza. I've never been like, oh, well, that pizza's not good enough. You know what I mean? It's basically, did I not eat, did I inhale it or did I eat it slow enough to actually be able to grade something like that? But no, when I was in KC, I don't remember the pizza spots because everything, was barbecue. I mean, that was my focus.
Yeah.
There. And being Italian, there's going to places that aren't like in Brooklyn. There's like a taboo against that, so I had to protect my image, right? But
that's fair.
Yeah. No, I know. And now I'm up here in northern Maine where I love our community up here is great, but you're not coming up to northern Maine to tip for pizza. You know what I mean?
It's not a pizza hotspot.
But we have this place called Pat's Pizza, and it's really good. And it's been going for, I don't know how long, 50 years. I mean, this place has been around forever. And it's just a go-to. There's one in every single town, Pat's Pizza. I don't even know if they have competition. It might be the only pizza place up here.
So what's the order? What's the order of Pat's Pizza? That's what we got to know now.
What's that?
What are we getting at Pat's Pizza? Like, what's our pizza of choice?
So Pat's Pizza's motto is something along those lines of, you don't have to be ashamed to eat a whole pizza by yourself. And that's like their large pizzas are like 14 inches or something, so they're not huge, but you eat the whole thing. And so I just go with I'm a just standard cheese or pepperoni guy, and I'll eat the whole pizza. So that's the sort of novel thing is that you eat the whole large pizza, so you don't have to feel that terrible about yourself. You know what I mean?
I'm in. I'll give it a go.
Right, one of these places out there because I'm curious to hear what you guys do.
So here's the issue is like, I usually don't prepare by reading these questions. So like this one, I would have to entirely do on the fly. And I put actual thought into the cheeseburger scale, like trying to find the ones. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been in Kansas City. And when I lived there, I lived up north. So like all my pizza places were, at the time, especially, I was a younger guy, picky eater. It was mostly just, hey, who's going to give me the most meat lovers on my pizza? I was playing O-line, D-line, and I didn't like have the frame necessarily to be 300 pounds. So it was like, hey, give me a lot of calories. I just go into Pizza Hut, Papa John's kind of places. I will think about this and answer it at a later date because I do want to find some. I do have one pizza question to follow up though. Cream cheese on a pizza, like a pepperoni and cream cheese pizza. How are you feeling about that? How's that sound to you?
I would certainly, I love cream cheese.
Okay.
I would certainly eat it. I don't know what the result, I can't imagine it be bad. And we're talking the cream cheese is melted, right? Melted cream cheese?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Shout out Pizza Shuttle. That's like it's a pizza shuttle. I think it might be everywhere. Or maybe it's a local thing to Missouri. I don't know. Kid Swanson made me try it one time. I wasn't a big fan, but I know a lot of people really like it. And I know Pizza Shuttle kind of like specializes it there. So like there's one that's going to be on the pizza list. I just don't know where it's going to rank on it.
Yeah, no, that's good. Pizza Shuttle. I'm in on that. I want to try it.
Pizza Shuttle might even be the wrong name. I don't even know now. Arrow asks, what do you think is a realistic ceiling for Rashee Rice in the Chiefs offense? I've been really impressed with Rashee Rice. I think a lot of people remember our draft coverage. The Chiefs took Rashee Rice. I was visibly disappointed because he was one of the receivers that I watched, and I was like, I don't think he can beat man coverage, and he drops a lot of passes, and I don't know what that relates to. The more I watched and learned about him, like, oh, this guy loves the weight room. He played the entire year with turf toe, so maybe that's why he couldn't actually run his senior year at SMU. Like they wouldn't come off the field with a turf toe injury. And like the more you watch, I'm like, okay, he's a little different than what I thought. I still have reservations, but I started to like the person a lot more and see what the player could be. And I think that's what we've seen for the Chiefs. He's explosive, he's big, he's physical, and he's the second most reliable pass catcher on this team behind Travis Kelce right now. And he's the guy making plays. Like you can't be anything but excited for what he's going to be. I don't know if he's ever going to be the most technical route runner. Like we still got plenty of growth to do there. And I think we're seeing that he's getting, out of the slot. He's starting to play out wide more. They're isolating him one-on-one on the backside. His touchdown catch, it wasn't isolated, but he was 2x2 on the outside. He ran a little sluggo, found a space in the zone between the corner and the safety. It was excellent route running. Like I think the ceiling's very high. I'm stopping just short of being like, as of right now, of being a like legitimate wide receiver 1, but a really, really good wide receiver 2 in this offense while they have Travis Kelce. I think that's huge. And maybe there's potential if he starts to really relearn how to run routes. Because at SMU, air raid, go stand on the boundary, and you're one-on-one with 80 yards to work. Like, you don't have to run routes. You're just kind of running to places. So we'll see how that develops. And maybe there is even more ceiling than what I said. Like, I really like what I've seen. I was entirely wrong with like my draft thought on him. But as you learned more about the person, I kind of changed my mind. It's like, I'm excited for Rashee Rice. What have you seen just kind of when you're watching the games go along out of him?
Well, no, I agree with everything you're saying. I think just one sort of, point to put a cap on it is Andy Reid's going to go to a Hall of Fame for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is his ability to figure out what a player does well and to isolate that and take advantage of that. And so Rice is in KC for a reason. Reid sees something that he has, and it might just be a matter of time. And like you said, he, all the things he's got, room to grow, continue to get better, but he's there for a reason. Andy Reid sees something, and if anybody's going to be able to get it out of him, it's Andy Reid. And so and when you have Mahomes at quarterback and Kelce in the mix and all those veteran guys, I just can only be optimistic for the future for Rice.
Yep. No, that's a great point. I think the Chiefs have done an excellent job using him so far and slowly incorporating other ways to use him so that you're not just dropping everything on his plate. You're building him up as you give him more. That's Andy Reid special right there. KC from KC. Are the Chiefs a top 5 defense, a top 5 or better defense with the addition of Charles Omenihu and as the season keeps up? What's your feeling on where the Chiefs rank in the NFL right now? Do you think they're a top 5 defense at this moment?
Yeah, well, I was surprised to hear that they weren't. I wonder where they are. They got to be close, right?
They probably are pretty close. I think it depends on how you want to go about it. I do think that they're probably sitting somewhere between like 4 and 7 would be my guess. The 49ers game last night, they're probably somewhere in the top 7 for sure. So like they're right there. Do you think they'll maintain that through the rest of the year? I think is probably a better way to phrase that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Especially given, if we're saying that the offense is on an upward trajectory, that's just going to help even more. So yeah, no. And Omenihu, like we said, brings a lot to the table, especially when it comes to freeing up Chris Jones and having that extra rusher. Sorry. Yeah, I know, but again, I'm just thinking, like, I would have assumed they were a top. I mean, this defense is really good. And so to just add points like that, it's just going to make them better. But I mean, I don't know, what other defenses are you picking over KC right now in the NFL? There ain't too many, if it.
Right. Browns, 49ers, maybe, that's kind of the end of my list, right? Like that now we start having conversations, right? And so I'm with you.
Browns are always so bad that I forget when they start doing good stuff. You're right, the Browns, yeah.
Miles Garrett and silly things. Yeah. Z Undera, the Titans have begun to sell players off. What do we think of Deno Autry? I'm just real quick, my thoughts. I love Deno Autry. I actually think he would be a perfect Chiefs defensive lineman because he does all the dirty work, plays the run well, and would use just say, hey, we need a random guy that's not Chris Jones to come up with the pressure in a big spot. He was kind of that guy for the Titans. However, his Chiefs D-line rotation's pretty full and pretty good. I don't know if there's space. Like, that's my quick thoughts. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Deno Autry or where you think he might fit with the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, my study is pretty much restricted to KC, so I haven't seen a ton of him. I know he fits the mold of what you want. But with Omenihu and, Chris Jones, and like you said, the rotation that we got, I guess it would come down to price and timing and all that stuff. I mean, obviously with a guy like that, if you can get him at the right place at the right time, great. But I don't think it's a necessary thing. Like, this is going to be some huge step up if we have him, and and we're less of a defense without him. I don't think it's that sort of situation.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. Ace of Spades. I keep hearing people say this is the best roster of the Mahomes era. Considering he already won 2 rings, do we think this is the Chiefs' best roster of all time? No shade towards the Super Bowl IV team. I don't know how much Super Bowl IV Chiefs tape you have watched, but how do you think this current roster stacks up versus, the last 5 seasons of these Chiefs teams?
It's so hard because
right.
I mean, these are gonna be these are the best teams in Chiefs history. I mean, like, I'm not a historian. I know we've had great teams, and but geez, I mean, you got Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer, and it's not just like we have Hall of Famers and we're winning some games. Like the question alluded to, we have Hall of Famers and we're winning Super Bowls. With AFC Championship every year with Mahomes there. I mean, it's going to be one of these teams. These are going to be the best teams in Chiefs history, when this is all said and done, and we move on from Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes up for a long time, hopefully, but these are going to be the teams. This, and I think it was one of the questions before. I mean, this is one of the best defenses we've seen.
Yeah.
With, that might have been the question we just had, but this is definitely one of the best defenses we've seen with Mahomes and crew. And so, that tends to, when you see that, you say, okay, given what we know the offense can do, it certainly could end up that, this team could, there's not a team in the NFL that you say, oh, they're going to, they could really give, they're going to smoke the Chiefs. I mean, this team could easily win the Super Bowl, and especially the way the defense is playing. So it could turn out to be the case. I mean, I don't know, Matt, what do you think? I mean, clearly you got to be optimistic about this being one of the best teams.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best too. Like, I don't mean to disrespect guys that played in Super Bowl IV, but I just think the level of athlete is different now, that these teams would probably beat handily any of those teams. So you're looking to me about either the 2019 Super Bowl winning team or this team to be the most complete. And the reason I go to 2019 is you still had Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz playing at super high levels at tackle. You had Tyreek Hill, and you had Sammy Watkins healthy for, half the season. And I think there was enough star power on that team with Hill, Schwartz, and, even Sammy and spurts that it might be able to give this team that has a much better defense overall fits. I reserve my judgment to see how this defense now defends Tyreek Hill. See how they defend Tyreek Hill in London, and then I'll tell you which of those 2 teams wins, right? But this is definitely the most complete team. Best defense by far and the most complete. That star power in 2019 sticks with me a little bit. So we'll have to see how it plays out the rest of the year, I think.
Well said.
Keith McLean asks, this is for you, and I really like this question. As a defensive lineman, what are your feelings when a defensive lineman has to drop into coverage and end up covering a tight end or a wide receiver like we see KC sometimes do?
There is a funny clip out there. When I was with the Jets, we ran this play called Dime Spike, and I was the 3 technique. Bart Scott was the linebacker. And the idea was I would start as a 3 and jam down inside and try to get that guard's attention to let Bart get home on a blitz, the backer, and then I would drop out and fill his position. Well, for whatever reason, this was against the Patriots. Danny Woodhead was the back. And for whatever reason, we ran the blitz, and Bart didn't get home, and I dropped into coverage, and now all of a sudden I'm one-on-one covering Danny Woodhead. For those who remember, it's like 5'9", 185 pounds, fast as hell. And if you go and look up that clip on YouTube, it's funny because you see me trying to catch him, and he runs for like 60 yards, catches the pass, runs for 60 yards. And Brady even said after the game something along the lines of, "I like the Woodhead DeVito matchup there in the pass game." I mean, when you're dropping a lineman, especially a lineman like me, into coverage, one of the bigger guys, there's a reason. You have an opportunity to get an extra guy up back there to put a hand up, or you're hoping a blitz gets home and he's no factor in the pass game. So it's all about when it's called, and that I always liked it because you get to feel like an athlete a little bit. But then in the rare situation that you actually have to cover a guy, it can get ugly quick.
Please don't let the running back run, the Patriots option route on me. That's what we're coming down to. No, I mean, look, there's mostly it's going to happen on zone blitzes, and it's going to happen. And when I can pull countless clips of the Chiefs dropping George Karlaftis or Mike Dean into coverage, and it works perfectly. The pressure gets home, or they take away the immediate throwing lane, and it doesn't matter, right? But when it does happen, the one time where Keenan Allen's running an out-breaking route and Mike Dana can't keep up with him, like people get a little upset. The 3 other times they called it worked. The offense just had the correct answer. They got it fit up correctly, like whatever it may be. I think people jump to conclusions on those, and I think it started with the playoff loss to the Steelers where Justin Houston got beat by Antonio Brown. And why aren't you ever dropping Justin Houston into coverage? Like, it's a 3-4, he's a linebacker. Like, sometimes it's going to happen. It's play calls. I like the story though. Like that's fun, especially as a D tackle. Like you're not dropping as much frequently as like D ends are, outside linebackers, and usually you're just kind of playing like that hook zone right there over the middle of the field. But when you get matched up on one guy, well, that's gotta be a nightmare there for a second.
It's terrible, Matt. I gotta try to find the clip and share it on Twitter because it's bad. It's
Okay, we're gonna get through these last couple here pretty quick, guys. Oh, we've given you guys almost an hour now. We're gonna rip this from Zach Tuttle. But the way the season has started for Felix Anudike-Uzomah, where would you expect him to be at this point? Like, do you like what you have seen from the Chiefs' rookie first-round pick, Felix, so far, or is he about where you thought he would be?
Again, I'm not a guy that's worried too much about where they got drafted. Any rookie coming into the NFL and making any kind of impact, I'm always impressed with. It took me 8 games in a environment where I had OTAs were 12-hour days. We had 2-a-days during training camp for 30 days straight. I had all kinds of, time to get ready for the defense, get used to the defense, get used to the play call, get used to the guys around me, get used to playing against NFL caliber guys, 4 preseason games to play in. So any guy that comes in, regardless of where they got drafted, and with the limited amount of time that you have to prepare to play in this league, to go out there and do anything, I'm impressed with. And so there's only room to grow for him, and he will grow. But yeah, no, I'm impressed with it because he's been out there and he's contributed, and so yeah, no, I'm good with where he's at.
Yeah, I think he's been kind of what I thought. He was a developmental pass rusher that has a lot of athletic upside, but there was some technical stuff. There's some tendency stuff that needs to be fixed. Like you still see it. His snap anticipation's a little up and down. You see the burst and you see the hand technique flash sometimes, but there's work to be done, and that was fine. Like we knew that coming in. He's also in a loaded room of a team trying to win a Super Bowl. Like it's hard to find snaps for him over Karlaftis, Dana, Chris Jones playing out at defensive end. Now you have Omenihu back. Like you have a lot of guys to work through for snaps for him. So I don't think there's any concerns that the snaps aren't increasing right now, but you're still seeing the flashes of why they took him. So I think no concern. He's about where you wanted to see. Mike Denny, this is a bigger question, so I think that I just want to hear your general opinion on this. What sort of flexibility would need to be built in for the Chiefs to be comfortable extending Chris Jones? We're getting tight on time, so we won't focus much on the cap. Just like where do you stand on should the Chiefs extend Chris Jones and make him, one of the highest paid defensive linemen in the NFL, or do you think that it might be more beneficial to disperse that money over other players?
Oh, I think you go for it. If you can do it, I think you go for it. I think Veach and Coach Reed will find a way to get, I think they're going to try hard as heck to find a way to get it done. If any other team, I know you said don't go to the cap, but I think that's
okay.
I mean, this is the guy if the cap's not an issue, obviously you extend. I mean, I'm not worried about spreading the money, but you know what? And if you're any other team, I'm saying you can't get this done with all the all-stars you have on that team, except for Kansas City. Right? You have Mahomes taking less money, Kels taking less money. There's just something very special about that locker room where you got guys being selfless when it comes to financial situations, which is unheard of. And so, I think you do the best you can to make it work. Because I think he's just one of those rare guys that can win you games in important situations as a 3 technique, and that's very rare, but he's one of those guys.
Yep, I'm in agreement. I think if you can figure out a way to financially make it work and it's not going to hamstring you up against the salary cap, you find a way to make it work. I know the Chiefs have been a little hesitant about guys of his age and to pay them big money. And, if they have a lot of research in their building that says defensive tackles at this age start to slow down and they pull up, J.J. Watt, Aaron Donald, who are still good players at this age, but maybe not the same guys as they were. Like maybe I'll hear the conversation, but you watch this Chiefs team right now and he clearly is their best defensive player. He makes so many plays. If you can financially do it, do it. But I don't think that they will, they won't tie their hands together to pay anybody besides Patrick Mahomes, I think, at this point. So, it all depends on how Brant Tills gets that cap room figured out.
Yeah, great point, Matt. Good.
B. Higgs, in light of Bolton's injury, what does it feel like in an NFL locker room? What does being the next man up actually feel like? Like you say, the starter in front of you is out, you got to go in. What does that actually do in a locker room? How do people approach that situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know what really happens? You hear the next man up, and that's really true. You have to have the trust in the guys behind to come in and make plays. But there's also talk now in the defensive line room, in the secondary, to say, hey, new guys in there, we got to pick up the slack. You know what I mean? We got to make sure he comes in, he feels comfortable. Make sure you're on your P's and Q's, you're playing your techniques. You're not making it any harder for him than it needs to be, because now you have a new guy in there that's getting used to playing that full-time starting role. And so, the linebacker room is going to have that mindset where we trust this guy next to us to come in and fill in. But I would imagine there is going to be that message across the defense to make it easier on this guy, because we know it's his, it's first time taking full-time snaps.
Oh, that's an excellent point. It's something I guess hasn't really crossed my mind much, not just the guy coming in or anything like that, but people around him just being like, hey, not that no one's not playing their hardest, but just being like, hey, is there anything extra I can do to maybe help out? And a new guy coming in, at least for a little while, that says maybe he's not going to be hitting the ground, playing the same speed or on the same page as all of us. What can I do to help him a little bit? I think that is something that we might see coming forward. Drew Tranquill's already been in for the Chiefs, thankfully. I think this is mostly in reference to Nick Bolton. Drew Tranquill started games, played the whole thing. So I think they should feel pretty good about that, but it's still worth noting that what help other guys might be given around him.
Yeah.
Derek in the Mountains, this is another great question. This one is just for you now. What was your game day outfit? What was the game day fits like for you going in? And do you have any memorable ones of teammates that really stand out to you?
Oh, man. So when I was in Kansas City, because Kels was on the team, I would try to he upped everybody's game on the field and off, with the swagger off the field. And so I remember picking out an outfit once and trying to do something cool like he would. And I think it was a skinny tie and something. And I was like, I can't wear this. This I just don't work. I can't do it. I'm lucky to have a wife who has great fashion sense. So I was normal, nice slack. I like to dress up. So slack, button up, but I would change up the colors, right? And this was because of my wife, Jessie. She, I'd have purples and pinks and all these different line shirts and stuff. So I looked, as good as you're going to look for me. I'll try to post a pic for you, man. We put this out, but,
yes.
But I tried to up my swag to catch up with Kels when I was there. And I was like, I can't walk out the house looking like that. It just doesn't work for me. Skinny tie doesn't work. And tight jeans don't work when you're 320. It's not a good look.
he's got something going on. Like, so you see some of his stuff now, like there's like these big sweaters that like hang down to like the knees and stuff. It's like, it's stuff that I see like, hey, he's pulling it off fantastic. And like, I could never imagine putting it on and even like walking up to my wife and being like, you think this looks good to go out in front of all the cameras? But like, he's got it figured out, man. It's like, good for him. I like the classy look. And I like, the wife, that's a good touch, getting her to get some splashes of color in there. So it's not the same fit every single week. I enjoy that. Well, Mike, I think that wraps it up. That's probably about 21 questions for us. I appreciate your time. We gave the people about 60 minutes worth of questions. That's awesome. Thank you for hopping on here with me.
Oh man, thank you for having me on, Matt. This is fun, and hopefully everybody thinks it was good. But no, thank you for having me, brother.
Oh, I'm sure that they will. Thank you guys, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it, and we will catch you guys with one of 23-ish podcasts that are coming about the Chiefs this week.